Behind me you can see one of the most popular areas of Budapest, the Buda Castle district. However, there's an area right under it that's often overlooked by many visitors of the city. Because on the slopes of the castle hill, we have many scenic stairs, winding streets, old traditional buildings, cafes, restaurants, and a charming atmosphere. So today let us show you a lesser known part of Budapest, which is also called as the Watertown. And first we're gonna take the subway to get over there and go to a bakery to grab something delicious. The area we will be exploring today covers parts of the first and second districts of Budapest, but it has its own unique personality, and it can be easily reached via public transport hubs like Batthyány Square or Széll Kálmán Square. Now right here at Széll Kálmán Square there is this very unique shaped house, which I always thought that it was designed by one of my favorite Hungarian architects, Imre Makovec. But the reality is that he did not make this. It was in fact one of his colleagues, Ervin Nagy, who designed this. But in Hungary you will see many different houses and buildings and churches that have these kind of motives. And the most prominent designer is Imre Makovec. But then there are other colleagues of his who also designed many of these. And I think they look very interesting and unique. Now that was a really strong start for our culinary adventures today here at Salt Bakery, where I had the famous kakaós csiga, the chocolate swirl. And we also found a lekváros bukta, which is very rare these days in some of our bakeries. So we were super lucky. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to know more about Hungarian pastries and baked goods, then we actually have a video about it. So I know it's early on in this video and I'm already advertising the next one, but definitely make sure to check that out after this one. But now, let's talk a little bit about history. Now, in order to understand the importance of this area here in the city, we need to go all the way back to the age of the Roman Empire. Because at that time, here at the Danube River, was where the frontiers of the empire ran. And actually north of here there was an important military city called Aquincum, which is known today as Óbuda. There you can find some Roman ruins and also learn more in museums about the life during the Roman times here. But where we are right now, there was an important junction in the road that was leading north to south. Plus, right where we're gonna go at Batthyány Square, there was a road that was leading westwards. So this was an important hub in terms of transportation, logistics, and trade. However, because there were these trading routes, this had an impact later on when the Hungarians came here, and then more and more settlements started to be established here, which later on became the town, Watertown as we know it. Oh, and by the way, if you come here to try this bakery or just check out some of the buildings that we showed you, then make sure not to forget about locating some of the Kolotko mini statues. There are multiple small dog statues located here at this little square. The thing I really love about exploring these parts of Budapest is that you get to find buildings like this one was behind me, which isn't famous, it's not an attraction, but it has so many nice and gorgeous details. It's just a place where people live, but finding these in these areas is a real joy. Up in the castle area during medieval times is where the noble people have lived. However, down here was the place where mainly merchants and craftsmen and fishermen lived, and they basically serviced the castle. And because we have the Danube running here, there was an important port which has served the trade and also helped the local fishermen to thrive. And this is how this area became known as Víziváros, which literally then translates into Watertown. And by the way, here at Batyányi Square is probably one of the best places to view the Parliament building. If you just walk down to the river itself, you can have a look at it. Spot on in the middle, which is also why this is one of my favorite spots here in Budapest. One of the unique features you can observe in this part of the area is that some of the buildings have their entrances at a lower elevation than the roads and the pedestrian way. Now, this is a result of 3 different events over centuries. One of them was the Great Siege of Buda Castle at the end of the 17th century. During that time, the Allied forces have pushed out the Ottomans, but that siege has resulted in a destruction. Not just the castle was destroyed, but also this area. However, during the efforts to revitalize this area and rebuild everything, instead of removing the rubble, they basically started building on top of it, which resulted in a higher elevation for the roads. However, then during the 19th century, a modernization went through the city, and at that time they've built sewer works and other drainage systems, which again resulted in a higher elevation for the grounds. But then at the end of the 19th century, one of the biggest problems of Budapest were the regular floods. And in order to prevent flooding, they have started to rebuild the Danube banks so that flood can be prevented. And that, once again, has raised the grounds here because this was still a lower elevation zone. And now, thanks to all of these happening, if you look carefully and see that some of these houses have a lower elevation with their entrances, that's how you can spot which are some of the oldest buildings here in the neighborhood. Now, exploring these parts of Budapest or any other place wouldn't go as smooth without our phones. We use the internet all the time to navigate, to buy our public transport tickets, or find out about some of the fun facts that we're sharing in this video, or when it needs to be done, we can use it to translate anything. However, if you guys are traveling, then the roaming charges can stack up quite easily. Luckily, that's where Saily comes in. Saily provides affordable data plans through their eSIM solutions in over 200 destinations around the globe, which also includes Hungary. And now, thanks to them, you can get 15% off if you use my code StuffedCabbage. Link is in the description, or you can use the QR code. Thanks to Saily for sponsoring this video, but now let's get back to Watertown. So far we have avoided using stairs, but this area has quite a few. Some of them scenic and some of them offering some very unique perspectives, like the one where we're gonna get to in a moment. And finally, we have arrived to the edge of the castle district here with the famous Fisherman's Bastion right behind me. However, today we are focusing on Watertown, so we won't be going up there. But one recommendation, if you don't want to take the stairs all the way up here, then you can technically take a bus, get off here, and then do the same routes that we did, but the other way around. That may be easier. But the other thing that I wanted to highlight, the name Fisherman's Bastion is also related to Watertown, because this is the part where many fishermen lived, as I have said, and they had a guild. Now, back in those medieval times, parts of the castle walls were supposed to be defended by people living close by, and this area was designated to the Fisherman's Guild. That's how this place got the name Fisherman's Bastion. No fisherman lived here or owned this part of the wall. It's just an honor to them, because under here was Watertown, where the Fisherman's Guild lived, and they defended this part of the castle. It's so easy to just simply get lost in some of these little streets, going up and down on these hills and just admire all the beauty that these buildings have. It's really, really cool. But We've been spending so much time here walking around that we need to re-energize once again, and for that we need to find a coffee shop. The thing that's really fascinating for me is that just a few streets up there on the hill, which goes right under the castle walls, there are so many people walking down towards the chain bridge. But here, just another street down, there's basically nobody. It's super peaceful here, but it's still worth to come here because of all these really nice looking buildings. And by the way, there's one building here that has an interesting feature that I read about. Whenever I do research about the areas that we're gonna visit, I always use Google Maps and I drop that little guide that helps you to look around in the streets. And when we were looking at which places to look at here, I found this street and also this house with this unique feature. You see up there, there is a snake. And while there is no real concrete evidence, but there are a lot of theories why we have a snake here. You see, back in medieval times, people used to put out some kind of reliefs or any kind of other signatures onto their houses to signal what the person living there has as an occupation. And the theory is that this house belonged to someone who worked in medicine or anything that's related to healing, because back in medieval times, snake was a symbol of medicine. Even today, if you see some of the pharmacies here in Hungary, there will be a snake on their logos. So it's quite fascinating that this relief is still here. Discovering more and more of Budapest and showing it to all of you is a very special experience, but we hope that you guys enjoy the work that we do. And if you want to support us, then you can do so by simply clicking the like button or leaving a friendly comment. That way we can reach more people on YouTube, or alternatively, you can also check out some of our merch. We will leave a link down in the description. That way you can get some cool clothes that we have, even this awesome cap that we just recently released. However, you can also support us by using the thanks button. With that, you can send us some donations, or you can become a regular supporter by joining our membership. That way you will know what are some of the places that we really enjoy and recommend here in Budapest through our curated map. And with this, I would also like to thank all of our special Cabbage Lover supporters who support us on a monthly basis. So thank you so much. Without you guys, we couldn't be doing what we're doing today. But now let's get back to the video. What I always found fascinating about this area was that up there at the Fisherman's Bastion, if you look down, you see many church towers, and that is actually not a coincidence, because after the Hungarians have settled here in the Great Carpathian Basin, then not just one, but multiple villages have been established here in this area where Víziváros is today, and each of them had their own church. Now, many of the churches that you see today here are not the same ones, but a few of them were actually built on top of the ruins of the old churches. And if you look at a map, while there are many churches here in Budapest, the concentration of so many churches just on this one single road called Fő utca, which is the main road, it's fascinating, and it is a remnant of these old times when there were more villages here, all of them with their own churches. Now, another thing that I want to highlight, right now we are in Corvin tér, and Corvin is related to a very special king that we used to have. Back behind me, there is a house which has a few reliefs. There you can see King Matthias depicted in different kinds of scenarios. In one of them, he's depicted as a farmer, but also on another one, he's depicted as a scientist. And on the third, he is a commander. Now, King Matthias was a legendary king, and some of these legends said that he was a very wise king who favored science, but also he had curiosity about how his people have felt. And these reliefs here kind of symbolizes these legends. But, as I said, Corvin is related to him because his name was Hunyadi Mátyás. He came from the Hunyadi family, and the Hunyadis had a family crest which featured a raven. Now in Latin, Corvus is raven, and he adopted this name to sound more Latin and have more authority internationally. So he was Matthias Corvinus, but here in Hungary he was Corvin Mátyás. For the last leg of our adventures today, we'll take the tram and head up north because there's one attraction, sort of a historic attraction that I want to talk about and show you guys. And then hopefully we will find a place where we will close the day with something delicious. Let's hop on the tram, let's go. And now here we can take a glimpse into yet another part of Budapest's history. Here we have a Turkish bath which was established during the Ottoman occupation's times. Now, one thing that's very interesting about this thermal bath, first of all, unfortunately it is closed. It used to be a local's favorite, but it needs a lot of renovation and we don't know when it will reopen. However, a fun fact about it is that it's one of the few thermal baths here in Budapest that doesn't have its own spring. The water used to actually come from Lukács gyógyfürdő, the Lukács thermal bath. When they have established this place was behind a wall system that was defending the castle area. So they built this place so that when there was a siege or any attack on the castle, there was still a thermal bath, a Turkish bath that people could use. But if you want to see remains of those walls that I just talked about, there at Széll Kálmán tér, you can find the old wall. There you can take a look at where the old walls used to stand. So that restaurant you guys just saw is Kacsa Restaurant, meaning duck restaurant. And it is located in the Kacsa Street, also meaning duck. And they are kind of famous for their duck. So of course we had to have some. And they are kind of like an old-fashioned restaurant with the huge portions. I could eat mine, my lovely producer could not eat hers, so we will have something to eat tomorrow as well. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed watching this video and got inspired to visit the Watertown of Budapest. Check out some of these nice architectures here, go to some of these restaurants and cafes and explore some of these small streets. And if you want to know what else you can do here in Budapest, then perhaps check out some of our other videos. And if you don't want to miss the future content that we make, then definitely subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching and see you guys in all of our future videos. Bye!